Thor's dark secret. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow across the city below. Avengers Tower, towering over the skyline, was bathed in warmth, but inside, the air was thick with tension. For days, Thor had been distant, withdrawn, as though burdened by something far heavier than the world they fought to protect. The team had noticed it, his silence, the way he lingered on the edge of conversations, how his gaze seemed constantly fixed on the horizon. But today, the burden Thor had carried for so long would finally come to light. The Avengers had gathered in the common room after a routine mission. The city was safe, the world, for now, untouched by the chaos of supervillains and intergalactic threats. But peace, it seemed, was fleeting. "Thor," Captain America began, his voice cutting through the soft murmurs of his teammates. "We need to talk. Something's not right. You've been acting strange lately." Thor's eyes, once filled with the light of battle, were now clouded with uncertainty. He knew this moment would come, but he had hoped it wouldn't be so soon. His fingers tightened around the worn edges of the ancient book hidden beneath his cloak, its weight heavy against his chest. It had always been with him, hidden, locked away in the deepest corners of his soul. But it had come to a point where silence could no longer protect him. "I know what you're all thinking," Thor said, his voice low but steady. "And I can't keep this from you any longer. There is something ancient that I have kept hidden for far too long." Iron Man raised an eyebrow, his hands clasped behind his back as he regarded his friend. "Ancient? Thor, what are you talking about? You're the god of thunder, the Asgardian prince. You've never kept anything from us." Thor looked at him, his eyes heavy with regret. "This is not something I should have ever kept hidden, but it is far too dangerous, and I am afraid that by revealing it, I may have already set into motion events we can't undo." Captain America stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "Thor, you know we stand by you. Whatever it is, we're here. You don't have to face this alone." Thor nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of his confession. "It's the Book of Ymir," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "An ancient relic of unimaginable power, one that predates even the gods themselves. It holds the knowledge of Ymir, the first being who shaped the cosmos." Iron Man's expression shifted from skepticism to concern. "The Book of Ymir? The same one that was sealed away centuries ago. Why didn't you tell us about it sooner?" "I was afraid," Thor admitted. "Afraid of what it could do. Afraid of its influence. I thought I could protect you all by keeping it hidden. But I see now that the longer I keep it, the more it consumes me. And it is not just me it seeks the strongest among us." Captain America's brow furrowed. "You're saying this book is influencing you? How?" Thor's hands trembled slightly as he held the book out, revealing its cover. The runes etched into its surface shimmered faintly, pulsing with an energy that seemed to reach out, pulling the air around them into an unnatural stillness. "When I first found it, I believed I could keep it under control. But the power inside it, its temptation, is too great. I felt it growing within me, threatening to overtake my will. And now, I fear it's starting to spread to others." Black Widow stepped forward, her face serious. "You're saying this book is the reason why Hulk—" "Yes," Thor interrupted, his voice strained. "Hulk is not the only one. Its influence is far-reaching. It feeds on our deepest emotions, our desires, our anger, and it has a way of turning that power against us. I am not immune to its pull. None of us are." A tense silence fell over the room. The Avengers had faced powerful foes before, but none of them had come from within their own ranks. This wasn't just a physical battle. It was a battle for their very souls. Captain America spoke, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed the weight of his thoughts. "What happens now, Thor? How do we stop this? If Hulk is being influenced by the book, if you're being influenced, we could be facing a threat unlike anything we've ever seen." Thor's face darkened. "That is why I must leave. I can no longer carry this burden. The only way to ensure the safety of this world, and all worlds, is to return the book to its resting place, to seal it away, where no one can ever access it again." Iron Man crossed his arms. "And you think just taking it back to Asgard will solve everything? You've already been affected by it, Thor. What makes you think you can control it once it's back where it belongs?" Thor's eyes met Iron Man's, the weight of the question hanging in the air. I do not know, but I must try. I cannot let it consume us all. The room fell silent once again, each member of the team processing the gravity of what Thor had just revealed. For years, they had fought side by side, trusted one another with their lives. But now, the trust they had in Thor was being tested in ways they never imagined. Thor's confession had opened a door to a new battle, one that would not only test their strength, but also their bonds. With a heavy heart, Thor turned away, ready to leave and do what he thought was necessary. But the Avengers knew this was just the beginning. The war they were about to face was not just against external enemies. It was against the darkness that now threatened to tear them apart from within. Hulk's rage. The Avengers were no strangers to danger, but nothing had prepared them for the storm that was brewing inside their own ranks. Thor's confession had sent ripples through the team, but it was the unfolding events that would test their unity in ways they never imagined. Thor's dark secret, the Book of Ymir, had not only consumed him, but now threatened to unravel everything the Avengers stood for. As the team stood in the aftermath of Thor's revelation, the once calm and controlled Hulk, their ally and friend, was slowly slipping into something far more dangerous. His rage, once a weapon they could manage, now felt unstoppable. "I don't like this," Black Widow said, her eyes narrowing as she watched Bruce Banner in the corner of the room, his eyes wild with the flicker of green rage barely contained beneath the surface. Captain America stood beside her, his brow furrowed. "Thor's right. The book's influence is spreading. If Hulk's not careful, he'll be the next to lose control." Iron Man, ever the skeptic, adjusted his suit's interface, scanning for any signs of danger. "And if we can't stop it? If Hulk goes full rampage? We need a plan." But the team didn't have time to plan. They were about to learn the hard way that Hulk's rage was no longer something they could control, something they could fight alongside. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the building, the ground shaking as if the very foundation of the tower was being torn apart. Hulk's fist smashed through the walls, sending chunks of debris flying across the room. His glowing green eyes, now filled with fury, locked onto the Avengers with a look that sent a chill through them all. "Hulk smash!" he roared, his voice reverberating like a thunderclap, shaking the walls of the tower. The Avengers leaped into action, but they had learned long ago that when Hulk was enraged, reason had no place. Iron Man flew up into the air, his repulsors ready, but Hulk was already charging. His massive form barreled through the tower, crushing everything in his path. "Bruce, please. You have to listen." Black Widow shouted, but Hulk wasn't listening. The power of the Book of Ymir had overtaken him, fueling his anger, turning him into a force of destruction that none of them could stop. Captain America swung his shield, aiming for Hulk's head, but the green giant batted it away effortlessly, his enormous hands smashing through the steel walls like they were made of paper. The once united Avengers were now scattered, each one fighting not just against the chaos Hulk was causing, but also the growing uncertainty within their team. Thor's confession had shattered their trust, and Hulk's rage seemed to be the first domino in a chain reaction that threatened to break them apart. "We can't keep fighting him like this," Captain America said, gritting his teeth as he tried to dodge another strike from Hulk. "We need to stop the source. We need to find out how to break the book's hold on him." Iron Man, struggling to stay airborne as Hulk hurled objects at him, replied, "Great plan, Steve. But how the hell do we do that when Hulk's throwing everything in sight?" Just as the team regrouped, a massive shockwave hit the tower. The building groaned, walls buckling under Hulk's rage. The Avengers watched in disbelief as Hulk continued to destroy everything, his strength increasing with each passing second. The ground beneath them cracked, and the entire structure seemed ready to collapse. "Enough!" Thor's voice rang out, filled with authority as he stormed into the chaos, his own powers crackling with energy. "Bruce, fight it. You have to fight the book's influence." But Hulk wasn't listening. The light in his eyes was wild, out of control, consumed by an anger that went beyond anything they had seen before. The book had found its new host, and it was using Hulk's rage to turn him into a weapon. Iron Man fired a volley of repulsor blasts at Hulk, but they did little more than slow him down. Hulk swiped at him with his massive hand, sending Iron Man crashing into a nearby wall. Thor, get him under control. Captain America shouted. We need to contain him before he does more damage. Thor nodded grimly, his voice trembling. I cannot, he's too far gone. The book's power has taken hold of him. As the battle raged on, the Avengers realized that they were not facing just another fight. They were fighting for the very soul of their friend. Hulk was no longer the team's ally. He had become the enemy, driven by a force far greater than his own anger. In the midst of the destruction, Batman and Superman arrived, hovering above the chaos. The two heroes had been watching from afar, waiting for the right moment to intervene. But what they saw now was a disaster beyond their worst fears. Bruce, Superman called out, his voice filled with urgency. We need to stop him, but we can't do it alone. Batman's gaze narrowed as he surveyed the scene, his mind working quickly. We have to remove the source of his power. That book. It's the key. But even as Superman and Batman prepared to intervene, they knew the challenge ahead would be unlike any they had ever faced. Hulk's rage was uncontrollable, and Thor's secret had already begun to unravel the fabric of the Avengers. The trust that had once united them was now fractured, and the line between friend and enemy was becoming increasingly unclear. Thor watched, helpless, as Hulk continued to destroy everything in his path. The weight of his secret pressed down on him, and for the first time, he realized that the battle they faced wasn't just against their enemies. It was against themselves. The Avengers were no longer a team. They were divided, each struggling to hold onto the fragments of trust and friendship that remained. And with Hulk's rage consuming everything, it was unclear if anything would be left when the dust settled. Superman and Batman's choice. The destruction in the city was unimaginable. Buildings crumbled, streets split, and the air was thick with the debris and dust kicked up by Hulk's fury. The Avengers had been forced into a difficult position, but now, with Superman and Batman arriving on the scene, they were facing an even more impossible choice. Superman, hovering above the wreckage, his cape fluttering in the wind, surveyed the chaos. His eyes, usually filled with hope, now flickered with concern. He had seen the destruction that Hulk's rage had caused, but what troubled him more was the betrayal he felt at the heart of it all. Thor's secret had torn the Avengers apart, and now it was spreading like wildfire. This is bad, Bruce, Superman said, his voice low but steady as he addressed Batman, who stood next to him, his face hard with determination. Hulk's too far gone. We can't just stand by and watch him destroy everything. Batman, ever the tactician, remained calm, though the weight of the decision was clearly weighing on him. I know, he replied, his voice filled with quiet resolve. But this isn't just Hulk. Thor's betrayal has poisoned everything. We're not dealing with a normal fight anymore. The two heroes exchanged a long glance. The weight of the situation pressed on both of them. It was no longer a simple case of stopping a rampaging Hulk. It was about saving their team, saving their friends, and determining where the line between right and wrong had blurred beyond recognition. We need to stop him, Superman said, his tone decisive. If we don't act now, the city won't survive. And if we don't stop Hulk, this might be the end of the Avengers. Batman's eyes darkened, and he placed a hand on his chin, his mind racing through 1,000 different possibilities. He knew the consequences of fighting Hulk. The brute force of the Green Giant was far beyond the typical battle. But what concerned him most was the fact that Hulk's rage was being controlled by something far darker. The Book of Emer, the same book that had influenced Thor, who had now become a potential enemy as well. We can't just destroy Hulk, Batman replied, his voice cold with logic. He's still Bruce. We have to find a way to save him, or we risk losing everything we've fought for. Superman's expression hardened. But how do we save him when he's so far gone? How do we save a man who has become a monster? Batman didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked to the chaos unfolding below, to Hulk's massive form as it rampaged through the city. The once hero was now a walking nightmare, driven by something that even Batman couldn't fully understand. But there was no time to waste. Decisions had to be made, and they had to make them now. We stopped the book, Batman finally said. If the book is what's controlling Hulk, it's the only way to save him. We take it from Thor, we destroy it, whatever it takes. Superman's brow furrowed. And Thor? He's just as much a victim of that book as Hulk. We can't just take the book from him without considering what that means for him, for us. Batman turned towards Superman, his voice firm. I know. But right now, the priority is stopping the destruction. The longer we wait, the more damage Hulk will do. And as for Thor, he's not the only one we have to save. If the book has this kind of power, it can't be left in the hands of anyone. The weight of their choices hung heavy in the air. Superman had always been about hope, about fighting for the greater good. Batman had always believed in preparation, in strategy, and in making the hard decisions when necessary. But now, those two beliefs were colliding head-on. Superman nodded reluctantly. We'll do what we have to, but we need to make sure we're not destroying our friends in the process. Batman didn't respond. Instead, he turned his focus back on the city, his eyes narrowing as he watched Hulk rage against the destruction. We need to reach him. We need to stop Hulk before the destruction becomes irreparable. Superman and Batman flew down toward the heart of the destruction, their approach quick and decisive. As they neared, they saw Hulk once again swinging wildly, sending debris flying and shattering buildings. The scene was chaos, and the people were fleeing for their lives. Hulk, Superman called out as he hovered above the green giant. You have to stop. This isn't you. The book, it's controlling you. You have to fight it. For a brief moment, there was a flicker of recognition in Hulk's eyes, and he hesitated, his massive form pausing. But it didn't last. With a roar, he turned his attention back to Superman, charging with the force of a freight train. Superman was forced to dodge, narrowly avoiding Hulk's fist. I don't want to hurt you, Bruce. Please fight it. Batman, watching from the ground, knew they couldn't keep dodging forever. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. He quickly analyzed the situation and decided to take action. Superman, Batman shouted. Distract him. I'll go for the book. Superman nodded, immediately diving down toward Hulk, drawing his attention away from Batman. Hulk, blinded by rage, focused on the Man of Steel, charging at him with a force that shook the very ground. Meanwhile, Batman, ever the strategist, made his move. He darted toward Thor, who had just appeared on the outskirts of the battle, still reeling from his own betrayal. Batman knew that time was running out. Thor had to be stopped. The tension was unbearable. Would they save their friend? Or would they be forced to fight him, and each other, to the bitter end? As the battle continued to unfold, one thing became clear. The choices Superman and Batman made in the next few moments would determine the fate of their friends and the world.